One of my favorite CEOs, the CEO of Starbucks, made the news for coming out with a very bold email to his leaders because they just went through a massive layoff. They got rid of, I think, let me look at my notes. It's like 1,100 people or something. It's like one of the biggest layoffs in their history, something like that. So Brian Nickel is their new leader, and so they went through these big layoffs. And then he came out and he had this bold statement for all the people who were left. And his statement was built around three key points: work harder, take ownership, and get back in the office. So he's, in some ways, I feel like he's saying a lot and he's also saying nothing in this. And, you know, as I reflected on where they're at, what they're going through, because if you don't know, Starbucks is not, they've been going through a lot of challenges, right? They're not doing as great as they were, as many companies. They're having to completely rethink what they're doing and they're having to go through all this. And so as I looked at his message, there were definitely things in it that I went, okay, like I see where you're going with this. You know, he wanted to encourage people and say, hey, those of you who are still here, you're safe. Like, we're not going to be doing this again. I really get nervous whenever senior leaders say that because almost never do they mean it. It's usually just platitudes, and they end up putting themselves in a dangerous position when you say you're safe. If you're still here, you're safe, because really there's a subtext underneath that, which is you're safe until we decide that you're not safe again. But he did acknowledge that things are not great and they're in turnaround mode and there's a lot of work lately. And he did acknowledge the layoffs. So I think, that's a good start. You gotta start there, and you got to acknowledge where it is. And his whole focus on the rule of threes. There's a lot of research behind threes and why it's important and all these other things. But I want to break down each one of the three, because if you're a leader, you might look at this, and he's a very polarizing person, especially with what he's done at Starbucks. And so you're going to have people who think he's the worst CEO on the planet, and I'll get messages from those people. And then you're going to have people who think he's the greatest CEO on the planet, and we just need more of that. We just need more of him, to fix all these lazy people in companies, and it'll fix our economy. And I'm going to get messages from those people because they come from both sides. But breaking down his point of work harder and take ownership. I struggle with this, and I'm not an employee there, but I know some folks who are part of corporate and some who are at very senior levels. And I'm like, I don't know that work harder is necessarily the right message for people, especially because when I talk to people right now, people are exhausted, they're burned out, they feel like they're working like nobody. I don't know very many people who are like, yeah, I don't really do anything. I just kind of sit around. I have nothing to do. So telling people just work harder is layering a burden on them that doesn't really acknowledge, like, well, but we are working hard. So your solution is just do more. How does that help us? Like, it's not acknowledging the fact that, and again, if you're in turnaround, come on, you got to be able to say the things we're working hard at are not the right things. We need to work different, would be how I would frame it if I were in his position. I say, we need to work different. We need to re-examine the things that we're doing and determine whether or not they're the right things. And that's not necessarily, if you talk to people on the inside, the environment that it's in. It's not necessarily, hey, like we're because the other half, take ownership. That's another part that just talking to some insiders, it's a platitude, but it's not necessarily being met with, okay, you know what? Think different and be accountable for what you do, but you know what needs to happen, and experiment and try things different. And ultimately, what we care about is that you're improving the performance of whatever it is you're doing. And we're going to give you the autonomy. And that's where I actually think his first point and his third point are in contradiction with each other, because it's like, take ownership so long as you own it exactly the way I tell you to do. And I have been with so many companies that this is very much the message that comes from senior leaders. We want you to work harder and be autonomous and do what needs to be done to get the job done. And here's the list of all those things that we expect you to do. And don't you dare deviate from any of these. And you also can't stop doing any of the things that you were already doing. And that to me was probably the biggest point of feedback or frustration with this bold leadership message from the top, inspiring the troops and making everybody go, be thankful you're still here. Now get out there and do everything you were doing before, and then do more of the stuff that we're going to tell you to do, and make sure you do it how I tell you to do it. And then also be accountable for it. And it's like, what, could you say more double talk in a single phrase? You literally are contradicting yourself with your messages. And that to me is probably my biggest frustration in the whole thing, is that it's like, this is not how you do it. So that's my challenge with this, is when I hear get back in the office, but also work harder and take ownership. It's like, you contradicted yourself right there. I don't even need to see the SOPs or the strategies or how they're doing their rollout plan to go, if the person at the helm is telling you to run autonomously and own your work, while at the same time dictating the terms and conditions of how you accomplish that, they are contradicting themselves and they don't see it. And that is highly concerning. It is also concerning because he's completely being a hypocrite on the matter, because part of his very public deal and taking the job with Starbucks was he negotiated a work from home clause in his thing where he gets access to the private jet. He gets to work remotely from his California location while Seattle is the headquarters for Starbucks. So to me, that was another one of the just really big offensive things. It's like, one of your 3 points is get in the office and the whole company knows you're jet setting back and forth on the company's private jet while you work from home most of the time. That kind of stuff doesn't inspire people. It doesn't motivate people. So not only are you now contradicting yourself because you're saying, own what you do, just make sure you do it how I'm comfortable with and how I want to see it. But now you're also doing it with how I say you should do it, but I actually am not going to do it because you guys, you all need to be in the office. Me, see, it's different because I'm not you. And for me, it's better if I do it this way. And the company needs to make extra money because that jet back and forth and my $113 million compensation, that's very expensive. So if you all could work harder and do more, but make sure you do it in a way that I'm comfortable with and I like, I would really appreciate that, because that is the secret to our company's success. Okay. So already I've got major issues, and this isn't just well, Christopher, you're just an advocate for remote working. No, actually, I'm not as much of an advocate for remote working as people think. I'm more of a, let's determine what needs to get done and then actually hire people who are capable of figuring out the best way to accomplish that, empower, encourage, and trust them to do it, and then get out of their way. I've had plenty of people in my teams where I've been remote and I've had people say, I really need to have my team here, and here's why, Christopher. And I go, it's your team. If that's what you feel needs to get done and you can articulate that and you're not destroying the team culture doing it, I'm not going to say, I don't think you do, and let's argue about that. I'm going to say, you're accountable for it. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to see your engagement scores. And if you're not getting better outcomes for dragging people in and I'm approving more expenses for flying your people into a location, I'm going to have a conversation with you about how effective your strategy is, but you're accountable for it. So if that's what you think needs to get done, then go do it. And I think that's to me, not only the contradiction in himself, but the contradiction that sends when you say, do this, but I'm also going to contradict it, and I'm also not going to do it myself. Now, the other one that really bugged me about it was just saying leaders need to lead. You can't define things with the word that is the word. Get in shape by getting in shape. Okay. Like, what does that mean? I don't know. That doesn't give me anything tangible and because the rest of his message was so contradictory, he's not even modeling it well. So he says, lead, we need you to lead, leaders. So leadership. Okay. And it's like, lead leadership. How? Like, by saying something and doing the opposite, by not being clear? Am I supposed to give really clear terms and dictate things to people? Or am I supposed to empower them? I don't understand what you're asking me to do. And it's very confusing. And honestly, well, what he said, leaders need to lead, would probably preach well from a stage and people would clap and go, yeah, good job. That's right. Leaders do need to lead. Yeah, duh. Of course they do. Of course. Eat healthy if you want to be healthy. Yeah, that's right. I still have no idea what to do with that. I don't know what that means because I'm watching you eat Doritos and pizza and also drinking sparkling spring water and getting I don't know, you're drinking a wheatgrass shot with it. Like, what do you mean eat healthy to get healthy? I'm not sure what kind of message you're sending. And I think that's where if I was at Starbucks, I would be left more confused and frustrated by this message. So I actually thought it was really interesting. And granted, the article where I first read about it was with Inc. They pointed out a lot of this stuff, but it was just interesting that they even framed the article as these are key leadership lessons. I'm like, key leadership lessons? To me, this thing is a masterclass on confusing the snot out of your employees on what it means to lead. Work hard, take ownership, go into the office. Those are leadership lessons. I mean, the greatest leaders I know go, I don't want you working hard. I want you working really smart. I mean, work smarter, not harder. Isn't that also like a leadership platitude that we throw around? So, well, we just chopped off half of it. We don't need you to work smart. We have AI now. Just work harder. What is it? I mean, is that what you mean? Take ownership, just not your own way. Take ownership our way. Own what we want you to own. Like that's a leadership lesson. Like that's a key leadership lesson. That's not a key leadership lesson. That's a lesson in hypocrisy. Get back in the office like I don't. Oh, okay. I read it and I was like, this is key leadership lessons? This is not key leadership lessons. This is not how you lead a company. This is a lesson in what not to do. But I wanted to add this week to call attention to it because I know I'm going to get people who light me up for this. And they're going to say all the things, well, Christopher, you just don't agree with his leadership style. I don't agree with what he's doing as a leader because it's not how you lead. That's why. It has nothing to do with his leadership style. There are certain people who firmly believe you need to be in the office. And they live and breathe it. And they are in the office and they are engaged with their teams and they have built a culture around it. I may not agree with it, but I go, there's someone who firmly believes it and they don't deviate from it and they hold firm to it. I think it's limiting them, but they are leading it. Saying get in the office while taking your private jet and working from home most of the week. Yeah, that's not a good leadership lesson. Telling people to just work harder? No, at a time when you're in turnaround mode and what you're doing is failing miserably. Doing more of that. What is that term for when you do the same thing more and expect a different result? Can't remember the word for that. It'll come back to me though. It'll come back, I'm pretty sure. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we just got to be so careful with this because I see this kind of pump and dump stuff that it trends all over the internet. It's, yada, yada. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is nothing. This is absolute nothingness. Okay. I'm going to stop because I'm all amped up about it. But if you follow the CEO of Starbucks, I'm not telling you you've got to, never be in an office. I'm not telling you that encouraging people to take ownership and responsibility for their work. That is a great leadership principle. Make sure you're creating an environment where they actually can do it. And don't say it if you don't mean it. Don't say take ownership if you actually want them to do exactly what you want them to do. If that's all you want to do, then say that. Say, I don't want you to take ownership. I don't want you thinking critically. I want you doing what I want you doing. Okay, so do it. And if you deviate, we're going to have issues. And guess what? There are times when that is what you have to do as a leader. Seasons. It's not a great leadership strategy long term, but there might be a season you need to do that. But then do that. If truly work harder is what you need, goes back to that. Hey, we do not have room right now to be experimenting. The plane is falling apart right now. We got to get the doors and the wings and the engines back on. That's what needs to happen right now. And we just need to be pushing relentlessly at that. And I know there's a lot of good ideas that are going to come up. We got to say no to those right now. Okay. All right. We need to work hard on these key things and we need to go for it. And that's it. Okay. And that's going to require us to be in the office because, and I'm going to be right there alongside you because that's how serious this is. If that's what he was doing, as much as I might disagree with him, I would go, that is a leadership lesson. This is not a leadership lesson. This is a message from a coward who just is wanting people to do everything and he's going to not get any results from it. But whatever, you can hold me accountable if I'm wrong, but I've seen this too many times.